Welcome to my 9th video blog for our Educational Leadership Practicum. I will address Standard 3 this time, and I'll get to the functions that are applicable at the end after I've told the story of my experience. Standard 3 says an educational leader promotes the success of all students by ensuring management of the organization, operation, and resources for a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. This time around, and I think I mentioned that I was going to be doing this, I got to go sit in on a suspension hearing, and it was a long-term suspension. I don't know how short they get. I guess 1 day up to expulsion, I guess. But it went as follows. The people in the room were the associate principal, which is, I guess, basically the lead assistant principal, and then there are 4 assistant principals under the associate principal, and each of them is responsible for 1/4 of the student body as far as discipline goes, until something like this happens where it's very serious, and then it needs to go to some of the higher ups. The assistant principal that was in there was the one, of course, who was responsible, or who oversees the student that was being suspended. At the very beginning, the associate principal made a statement about what we were doing there, and I should have said this, but the mother of the girl and the girl herself were both in there, so it was myself and those 4 people. But anyway, the associate principal read the written report that was the disciplinary referral. I don't know if there was a police report or not, but in this instance, there could have been, but I'll get to that in a minute. But after that, the student was allowed to make a statement as to her side of the story, what happened, and why it happened. And in our school, I don't know if it's like this everywhere. The 2 schools I've taught at have had security cameras. So she really wasn't able to manipulate much because it was all caught on tape. And the long and short of what happened was that this girl took a sewing needle from a family and consumer science class. It was a longer needle, and went up and, I want to say poked, but they kept saying they kept using the word stabbed a teacher in the shoulder with it. And so of course it was looked at like an offense that had to do with a weapon. And this teacher has since had to get blood work done once a week to make sure there are no infections. And I'm from a small town, so I just don't fathom things like this happening. But anyway, the student made her statement, and like I said, it was not able to be manipulated. Not that she necessarily would have, but some kids will try to do that. And after that, mom and the student and both principals negotiated a little bit. You know, the associate principal, he tried to weigh whether or not she understood the magnitude of what she had done, why this is something that could have resulted in charges pressed against her. And after that, he kind of evaluated the remorse that she had or didn't have. And ultimately, the verdict turned out to be I don't know if it would have been a rest of the year suspension if this would have happened in September, but she got a 45-day suspension, which takes her through the rest of the school year. And so she will, I don't know her academic situation entirely beforehand, but they were talking about making up classes in the summer that she will not be able to finish. And I kind of thought that if it was a long-term suspension that she would have some sort of alternative option for finishing these classes, but I may have missed part of that. At any rate, she got the rest of the year out of school, and so that is the verdict that was reached. The functions of Standard 3 that apply here are C and D, and they both center on the safety. Well, excuse me, the first one centers on the safety. The second, as far as leadership goes. C says to promote and protect the welfare and safety of students and staff. I think it's very obvious how that one applies here. It's not just students. I don't know how frequently we think of a staff member maybe being in physical danger as much as students sometimes, but clearly it can happen. And D, to develop the capacity for distributed leadership. That one I think applied because both principals were in there, and not just the head principal was not. And so clearly the head principal trusts, and the school board by giving this kind of duty to the associate principal, trust the associate principal and the assistant principal who is overseeing this student. They trust them with those duties to do what they are supposed to do and to do it the right way. So it was, I don't want to say it was exciting, but it was interesting for me to see this suspension hearing. I do think that the people that were involved in it were very understanding, and this has happened more than once where I've gone in and dealt with someone who is having discipline handed down to them, and the principals that have allowed me to do so have been very they've been very good about seamlessly transitioning me into the room, because it'd be easy for the parent and the child to think, well, who is this guy? But they've just said, this is someone who's finishing his master's. He is not here to make any decisions. He's not here to report favorably or unfavorably on what's going on, and he just basically ignore that he's here. But we do appreciate that you're letting him sit, and I do appreciate that they let me sit in on it too. So, like I said, not exciting, but it was very, very interesting and captivating. So that is my 9th video blog, and number 10 is just around the corner.